Thanks, Sarah, and welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. So throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, my administration has made it a priority to support businesses and to protect our fragile economy in Pennsylvania from the financial consequences of this pandemic, especially to help business owners and their employees. Business owners and employees have worked hard to protect their customers and their communities throughout this pandemic. And I want to thank all of those in these industries who have prioritized health and safety despite the clear hardship of the past several months. Our business owners and workers have been clearly forced to make sacrifices because of COVID-19, and they need and deserve our gratitude and our support for what they've done. In March, my administration made low-interest loans available to small businesses through the COVID-19 Working Capital Access Program. We worked with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board to waive liquor licensing fees. And through the CARES Act from the federal government, we directed funds to a hazard pay program for frontline workers. We invested $225 million in the COVID-19 relief statewide small business assistance program and supported our agricultural industry, healthcare providers, arts and cultural organizations, child care providers, first responders, and many more. Just as the CARES Act did in March, the bipartisan COVID-19 relief package Congress passed this week and presumably will be signed by the president will provide desperately needed aid to businesses throughout Pennsylvania. But that bill is not sufficient to meet the needs of the Pennsylvania businesses that have seen the worst consequences from this pandemic, including restaurants and bars. Those places, those folks have been dealt a crushing blow by this pandemic through no fault of their own. It turns out that COVID-19 thrives in places where people gather together, especially when they're indoors. That has made operating more challenging for many businesses over the last several months. But the nature of this insidious disease is not the fault of the business owners, and they should not have to weather this storm on their own. We can and we must do more to support them. And I will continue to advocate for federal aid for businesses and workers in Pennsylvania. But in the meantime, I will continue to do everything in my power to provide support at the state level to the Pennsylvania businesses that have been hurt the most by this pandemic. So today I am pleased to announce that my administration will make funds available to help businesses whose operations and revenue were significantly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. To this end, I'm initiating a transfer of $145 million from the Workers' Compensation Fund at the Pennsylvania Insurance Department to the general fund, where those $145 million will be available for the General Assembly to appropriate them for either loans and/or grants to businesses in need, including restaurants and bars. While all business should be eligible for relief, I encourage the General Assembly to target the funding to those businesses with the greatest need. I urge the General Assembly to take action as soon as possible to get this money into the hands of business owners and the workers who need it so desperately. The money is available and it's ready to be distributed. Our businesses, they simply cannot afford to wait. We'll continue to pursue every possible avenue and every funding method to try to help those who have been hurt by the pandemic. One of these possible avenues could be the plan by Senate Democrats to provide $4 billion of relief to businesses, workers, and other Pennsylvanians. We have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of businesses in desperate need of help. So thank you. Now I'll open this up for questions. Sarah?
Well, I did the universal forgot to unmute, so sorry about that. Okay. First, we have Ben Stenrick, and Ben is from WLBR. You should be able to unmute, Ben.
Thank you, Governor Wolf. As far as businesses that maybe have violated some of the recommendations, will they still be eligible for this?
Yeah, we're making it available to. I hope the General Assembly will appropriate this for all businesses. And by the way, when it comes to compliance, most businesses. I closed indoor dining for 3 weeks up through January 4th, and most businesses have been abiding by that. So I don't really see this as an issue.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ron Southwick. Ron is from Penn Live. Go ahead, Ron.
Good morning. Just to make sure you can hear me.
I can, Ron.
Okay. Thank you, Governor. Thanks for taking these calls. I just wanted to ask, in light of you just mentioned the restrictions on restaurants that and other businesses that are set to expire January 4th. Are you giving any thought to extending those restrictions beyond that date, or perhaps even winding down those restrictions a little bit earlier than that date?
I haven't been thinking about making any changes.
Thank you. Next up, we have Samantha Zern from PLS. Go ahead, Samantha.
Hi, Governor Wolf. How do you the distribution of these grant funds? Will it be a first come, first served basis? And if so, do you foresee any struggles with businesses not being able to access that money quickly?
Yeah, we have. That's a great question. We have done the Department of Community and Economic Development. Well, first of all, it depends on the General Assembly to appropriate this money, and how they appropriate and how they want it to be administered will determine how we do that. But in the past, back in the spring with the CARES Act funding and the other monies that the Department of Community and Economic Development was tasked with distributing, I think they learned a lot of lessons, and in some ways, like the way they use community financial development organization funds, financial institutions. The way they use them was a model for the country in terms of getting money out quickly and into the hands of businesses that really needed it. So I believe we've learned from the experience we've had over the past months, and I hope that the General Assembly and I know my administration will do everything we can to make sure that money gets out quickly and to the people who need it and businesses who need it the most.
Thank you, Governor. Next up, we have Jan Murphy from Penn Live. Go ahead, Jan. You should be able to unmute, Jan.
Can you unmute there, Jan?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good.
There she is.
There you
And I'm
go.
so glad I don't have an echo this time. Governor, thank you for taking this call. I was just wondering if you could speak to this fund that you're dipping into to provide this $145 million. Is it going to put that fund in jeopardy in any way, or is there surplus money available in workers' comp?
I think by law, the workers' comp fund has to have a $500 million surplus, which it has. And it actually has money over and above that. And so this is part of the excess that's over. But $145 million is in excess of that $500 million. So yes, there is plenty of money in the workers' comp fund, and this is surplus. And I think this is an appropriate, and I'm hoping the General Assembly agrees, this is an appropriate way to use that money.
Okay, thank you. And you are saying that you want the money to be targeted for restaurants and bars?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm sure there are other gyms, businesses that have been hardest hit. I keep thinking of restaurants and bars because clearly they have been hit very hard by this. It's no fault of theirs. And I'm hoping the General Assembly takes a look at all the businesses like restaurants and bars that have been hit very hard by this.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jan. Next up is Flora Pastorero from Penn Watch. Go ahead, Flora.
Good morning, Governor. Governor, realistically, how quickly do you think you will be able to get this through the legislature? What is your timeline looking like?
That's a great question. I think I'm hoping that the General Assembly, when they want to, they can move things pretty quickly. So they come back in the first week in January, I think. I'm hoping that they can move on this fairly quickly. This is something that I don't think should be a controversial issue. Again, the money is there. It's a matter of we looked for all kinds of different places that we could find excess funds. This was one that we found, and I'm hoping that because it's there because it's in excess of what we should have, that this can move fairly quickly.
And how would the whole application process work? Do businesses have to apply? How much would they be entitled to? What is that based on? Can you provide some details on that, please?
I can't. That's exactly what the General Assembly is going to have to do. We will implement as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can whatever they do, and we'll work with them to try to figure out the best way to do it. As I say, we've all, General Assembly and the executive branch, have learned a lot throughout this pandemic as to what works and maybe what doesn't work quite as well. Clearly, we need to get this money into the hands of the businesses and the employees who need it, and we need to do it quickly. So we will work with the General Assembly to figure out the best possible way to do this.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jim Melward from KYW. Go ahead, Jim.
Governor, Jan hit on the questions I had, but I'll drill down a little bit more into them. $145 million can get spread pretty thin pretty quickly in a state as large as Pennsylvania is, and you mentioned restaurants and bars top of the list, but is there, would you try to focus specifically on them? And I know you kind of touched on that, but again, just how quickly that money can get spread to be not meaningless, but have less effect.
Yeah, no, yes, it's a great point. $145 million, again, to the businesses most in need. And the General Assembly will work together with them to try to figure out what those businesses are. And don't forget the money that should be coming, the next round of the CARES Act that was just passed by the Senate and the House in Washington. That also has some money that's focused on businesses, and so the $145 million by itself, I agree with you, is not going to be enough, and the hope is that we can get that out quickly, and maybe that is the thing that helps tide businesses over between now and the time when the Washington money starts to flow in.
And again, you mostly answered the question of where the money's coming from and how it's transferred with Jan's question. But are there any potential legal hangups or any wrangling there that you're facing?
I don't think so. We looked at the law, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but the law is that in excess of that $500 million mark, the treasurer and the executive branch can make a transfer to the general fund. Then the appropriations obviously has to be done by the General Assembly. We have some experience with this in the budget process each year. And so there is, I think, good legal precedent for making the transfer to the general fund. Again, the challenge, it's not a challenge, but the next part of the process is that the general fund legally has to officially appropriate that before it can be sent out to help anybody.
Thank you, Jim. Next up is Jamie Bittner from Fox 43. Go ahead, Jamie.
Hi, Governor. A lot of people already touched on the questions I had about your business announcement. So I was hoping I could quickly ask you about the COVID-19 vaccination rollout, how you think it's going in the state. As of Monday, the health secretary said only 17,000 or so healthcare workers have been vaccinated so far due to the vaccine arriving late in the Thursday or Friday. So I was wondering how you felt about how quickly it's coming into the state. And also I wanted to ask, she has been asked multiple times when you and Dr. Rachel Levine plan to be vaccinated. Could you answer that question? Yes.
Well, since we don't know when it's my turn, that's when I'll be vaccinated. I'm not going to butt in line. So I don't think the priority has actually been set for people my age. Over 75 is now in the priority list. I'm under 75, so at least the time being. So I will get it whenever my turn comes.
You're considered a critical worker, though, aren't you?
No, not as far as I'm concerned. I think there are 13 million Pennsylvanians who have probably an opinion on that. In terms of specific questions about the vaccine, I'll just say that this round of CARES Act funding, I think, has $8 billion in it for making sure that states and territories and the District of Columbia have funding to actually do the marketing and the logistics. But Secretary Levine is going to be on this press conference at 11 o'clock. So right after me. So you can ask that question of her and get probably a fuller answer.
Thank you. Next, we have Shannon Prin from WTAE. Go ahead, Shannon.
Good morning, Governor. You know, $145 million sounds like a lot of money. Can you quantify how far do you feel that will go to help Pennsylvania small businesses? And I kind of ask you to speak from the heart. It feels like politically and, you know, civically, you've been trying what you can and reaching out to Congress to get these folks some relief. So what does this mean to you, and how far do you think it'll go?
It won't go far enough, but it's a down payment, and I think that's what President-elect Biden said about this round of CARES Act funding. It's a down payment, but I think this, if the General Assembly acts quickly, we can get this into the hands of businesses. And you mentioned it's really small businesses. So $145 million goes a long way with small businesses. Maybe not so much with big businesses, but with small businesses can go a long way. And it certainly goes a long way in building that bridge between where we are and when the CARES Act funding starts drifting in from Washington. So I think, again, because it's a bridge and because it's focused on small businesses, the $145 million will go a long way. And the quicker we can get it out, the more efficient, the more effective it's going to be.
And just to follow up with that, thank you. You know, if you could just take a moment just to speak to a cafe out there, an ice cream shop, a hairdresser, you know, those folks who are watching you right now all across Pennsylvania, and, you know, we're here in Western Pennsylvania in the Pittsburgh area. What do you as the governor want to say about getting through the next few months and, you know, these folks who are trying to pay their employees and keep folks on the payroll and, you know, continue to function after we kind of have this behind us? What do you want to say to them specifically?
Well, the first thing is what I've been saying, and that is that this pandemic has imposed horrible choices on all of us. You know, each of us as individuals have had to make decisions about our own personal safety, the safety of our families, the health of our families, and our economic well-being. And they have been really awful choices. And as I keep saying, it's not the fault of, say, restaurant owners or bar owners or gym owners that their business is conducted in places where people actually gather together. That's what the virus likes, but it's not the fault of those owners. And unfortunately, because that's what the virus likes, we're all subject to the dictates of that virus, and it has made life hard for all of us, but especially hard for those businesses, for the workers, for the owners, for the patrons who rely on these places. And it has been really tough. What I'm trying to do here, and what I've been trying to do, is say, let's figure out a way to address both of these things. We can't ignore reality. We can't ignore the fact that this virus is out there. It is. I hate that. I'm sure everybody hates it. It frustrates all of us. We're all fatigued, but it is out there, and that's the reality. So how can we make the living with this reality as palatable as possible? And I think the only thing I can think of is do what this $145 million is focused on doing. I'm hoping the General Assembly will agree to get this money into the hands of those businesses, those folks who need it the most. Hopefully this next round of CARES Act funding will bring even more money. And again, what's different now than was what we had back in the spring is back then we didn't know when this was going to end or how it was going to end. Now we see vaccines. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm going to do everything I can, and Pennsylvanians are going to do everything they can to make sure that those vaccines get out as quickly and as effectively as possible. But in the meantime, we have to figure out what we're going to do until we get that magic, whenever that magic time is, when that light is on us, and enough people have the vaccine that we don't have to worry about this virus anymore. We're still some months away from that. we know it's coming, and we'll bring it as quickly as possible. But I think what we need to do is figure out how we survive, how we thrive between now and then. And that's what I'm trying to do with this $145 million. I know that's what Congress is trying to do with this round of CARES Act funding. The hope is that we can make it to that great time when all of us have have access to the vaccine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor. That is all the time we have for questions today. For any reporters who plan to stay on this very same call for the 11 a.m. briefing with the Department of Health, you can just stay on the line and you will be asked to join, or you'll be invited to join again, just as you were for this press conference. So we have about 8 minutes until that press conference begins. So for now, we'll say thank you again to Governor Wolf, and I'll turn things over to Department of Health. Thanks, Governor.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody.